It's Friday, November 19th, 2021. I'm in this. This is the unity symbol that they use in this area where I am, where I was delivered, which is Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361 is star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cataruza. I'm in what I call a system that's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. At galaxy level, I say it's broken. Now, there's something, they say that the FCC, which they say that's the Federal Communications, I don't know what the last C means, but it's Federal Communications. So they're in charge of whatever comes through the TV into my eyesight, my ocular. They're the ones that put on programming, branding, and so on and so forth. That's how it was explained to me. If I'm incorrect, I'm in a blue state. So in the state of New York, so I'm not sure. So if the red-blooded Americans in North America and the Union think it's something else, it could be. I'm just letting you know and updating the rest of the Union as to what is coming through to a nobody who's been very, I'm trying to be observant, but I'm not educated in any way, by, I'd said to my son today, he had a trouble at the park, at the local park with the boys. It's almost like, it would be like showing up for a movie and like the set's the same, but they added they changed the entire cast. The kids were the same, it's just the script. Okay, so they changed the script. The kids were the same, but the script changed. It was very weird. I don't like how this group of, I mean, they're diverse Americans, but for their age bracket, I'm disappointed as a mom and future grandma of how they speak to one another. It's almost like they've got this disrespectful, they curse at one another. It's not how I wanted any of my children to behave in the wild. And I'm not alright with it. But Nucci pointed out to me on, back to FCC, on the television, they just came out, I think this week, last week, this week, something like that, with something called, some movie, House of Gucci, Gucci. I never heard it referred to as a house. I know there's some product that they sell, and the women go crazy. I've heard in the same category, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and Bayberry. Then there's something called a Coach and a Prada. But again, I'm not socially, like, I'm not in that echelon. I don't have disposable income. I don't go shopping. And that's another thing. This is what's really scary. Inside this blue state and blue city that I've been in for my 4 decades plus 3 years, or within its proximity, I've never been invited to a safety instructions. Like, the first 3 letters of wardrobe is war. WARDROBE, wardrobe. So then shouldn't there be some kind of wardrobe consultant as to like how to keep yourself safe in a mixed, diverse, complex city with some port authority importance, some homeland security issues, your state's gone blue, we don't want people to hurt one another by accident or on purpose. So, like, maybe some personal consulting would have been a good way to go. State of New York leadership. I mean, I would have appreciated it. I would have taken part in it and helped you, but the message has never been clear. Like, there's never been like, okay, so now if you're wearing my son Benjamin bought me 2 shirts from Modell's for one of my birthdays, as a gift, and it was Champion, um, which symbolically I told him that it was very touching and that I really appreciated it. It was the first gift he'd ever bought me with money that he made all by himself without guilt or anything, and it was the only time he never bought me anything after that. And I still wear them to this day, and I said to him that I was touched by the effort that he made. It really meant a lot to me. But now, am I, like this house of Gucci, I know that certain people wear certain colors to signal certain things, and then to represent certain things. I hear there's something in this disintegrated telephone conversation of some authority, because a word by itself means absolutely nothing. There's something, some driving force, some driving point, some campaign, some meaning that's attached to a word to build a construct, and then all of a sudden it gains momentum and power. But the thing is that I don't know, there's, like, I joke now, I'm like, I don't like when you use that word, Slangly. That's my report to my son, the youngest one, the Mayan calendar baby, because sometimes he says things and I'm like, I'm a lady, speak to me like a lady. I was like, I don't like all this Slangly, this park Slangly. I know we're on the street, but I'm still a lady. Try to modify what you just said and say it back to me again, one more time. That was my conversation with him today, because I was unhappy with the way he was speaking to me. But, my whole thing is that I hear the humans say, like, sometimes they get in heated arguments, which I don't listen to, but sometimes I'll get in the car with Lou and he'll have on the AM radio, which is like, and it's people mad about something. And the words, like, if next to your head there's like a ledger, like, and it prints out whatever goes in your audio canal, whatever connects with your head. Sometimes when they speak, I can't even follow what they're saying. I'm like, I know it's English, but it's not a logical thought pattern that I've ever heard before. And the words don't seem to be, like, sometimes they're political words. That's why I'm like, I don't even speak the same English. I've never heard of this House of Gucci. I've heard the product, but that's hit the streets, and I know there's something that the police deal with counterfeit and rings of whatever police do, and they're keeping themselves safe and working with outside law enforcement I have no idea of. But they say sometimes things like, that's so left wing, or that's so right wing. I'm like, right, okay, I came from a house with 2 broken wings. So now you're going to have to, like, build me a construct of what it is. Because, like, there are things I still don't understand. Like this feminism thing. I'm like, I can understand how they argue about it sometimes. But then I sit back and I'm like, but if feminism was meant for some other purpose to just, but that's private label, it seems like, somewhere else. But sometimes it doesn't come through the telephone system of the television just right. And that's where, like, that Consumer Protection Act, I don't know what they wrote that into, but I've been here, I've made very little money, but I've had to buy products. I don't really have, there's no brand, like, there's no, like, if you buy Kellogg's, will contribute to your national security. Make sure that you and your kids are safe, and, like, almost like a designated way to know certain things are funded properly. Like, there's not even that level of security anymore. It's just like, how do I know that my dollars are going to fund things that will come back and my children will be safe with? Because in the last 4 decades of my parents buying things for me, for my children, I don't really see their dollars going to good use. in the sense of we're still a blue state, and that means cyanotic at some level, that we're not fully communicating with the rest of the red bloods in a way that's uniform. For, I don't know if that's with the climate change, with the ozone, with the turmoil, with the, we're building a nation together. Is that what the bread and circus people do? Am I supposed to be providential and independently, I don't know, observant of something different? I'm not quite sure. I mean, how do you close your eyes to certain things? But, like, I mean, I try to tune out when people try to argue with me. I like to learn. I like to learn what their point of view is, but I don't want it to be pushed upon me like I have to buy the concept, because it doesn't always work. It depends on a whole lot of moving pieces and factors. So that's why I feel like I just interact with this engine a little differently. I always have. And I'm always looking at the two. I mean, they're parental units, but I don't know if that's even like an appropriate, because people have like their mothers and fathers are incredibly important to them. We're like the best example ever, and they're now like super successful people, and like they hate people who talk bad about their parents. I'm like, all right, so now here's the deal. I literally fell out of my mother. There was no like real sense of whatever you were blessed with. It's almost like, oh, TV show you've never seen, and it's like a different box that I really don't want everybody to check out, but I need to protect myself, and I don't know how to fix it. So how do I work that junction box, a junction dysfunction? So Nucci's been noticing around here, a lot of people have been wearing Gucci. Now here's the thing, I see a lot of, in here, Gucci is a red stripe with a evergreen stripe around it, almost like a bloodline, and then I don't know what the green piping is, and then it's a dark brown, and then it goes tan, like a lighter brown. That's kind of like when I see it on a flip flop, or I see the stitching in the center of it. That's how they're representing it, and then it's two G's, but it's confusing. And I don't know what real products are as opposed to counterfeit, because again, I'm not inside the court system. I don't have access to them, or they're informed to teach me. So that's like, if they've never invited as consumers us into some form of community protection, like to let us know what's a real, what's a fake. Could we let them know if we've seen any of these on the streets? Like, how do we keep ourselves safe? Like, what's a safe brand to purchase? I mean, for a mixed area. I mean, I don't want to step on some other nationalities' toes by accident, but I've never been taught what they find really as sensitive to not even speak of, make a sound of, or even intimate of. There's been none of that in order to, for personal safety. So now that also gets confusing, with living in this type of metropolis and this type of city arrangement. And currently, I think of New York City as Manhattan. I'm in an outer borough. It functions with some relation to Manhattan. I just don't know what. I think the mayor might live in Manhattan, but I don't even know that for certain. Again, it's very unclear, their communication level in the local area, like just by street and talking to people, is not clear. Radio, not that I listen to it often, but that's not clear. And then the television doesn't speak of where the mayor lives. he shows up and he's got some kind of screen behind him, but I don't even know how that works on the public access. Sometimes I can find him there. I don't really know his schedule when I'm like flipping around the stations just to get samples of whatever's coming through so I can paint a consistent scheduled picture of what this decade for in my visual cortex is, while I've encountered some cyber attacks and some biological attacks that I couldn't see coming and I don't know how to protect myself from. But I also have children that are following behind me, and I'm definitely concerned because I couldn't figure out how to protect myself. My parents have no clue. And my children, I am just putting myself as a shield between me and my children, hoping that I can come to some kind of resolution with some form of human to protect myself and them from whatever it is that's creating this blue cyanotic unhealthy condition in New York that not everybody is suffering from. But it seems that between some federal involvement, some state involvement, some union involvement within the northern hemisphere, they know that there's been some acknowledgement that New York's in a different state of something than some of the other areas. It hasn't been presented that way, but logically, when I look at I call it an ideograph, but I know some people call it a lithograph, because when you say idio, it's ID, and then it's whatever the IO lets out. But again, that goes back to I guess maybe star knowledge. I don't even know. Like, how do you, sometimes you know things that are a little bit out of the box, but I don't know. So I'm trying to think if that's everything in, right? The wardrobe, that's why I try to stay unbranded in just black at the moment. I have, by the way, when I wasn't this pudgy, like when I was able to go to Starbucks before they told me not to ever return or to ever come back, and then they gave me a problem in Bayside. I was wearing my green pea coat with a belt. I was thinner then, but that was my 3/4 length, almost like sage or mage robes. That's like how I felt like comfortable anyway, just sitting in quiet, whatever, but in public. So whatever public was around in the neighborhood, I could interact with in my normal self of not knowing anything and not knowing who they are. But I was accessible. And then they said to stop coming, and then I switched over to black. So this year I'm wearing all black. And it's black pea coat, it's black 3/4 length coat. My son's school is draped in black. I just think it's a good way to honor whatever lost something along the way in this confusing endeavor. So there is some form of solace and remembrance. Not that I'm able to pinpoint exactly what, but there is memorabilia of the fact that this has not been a smooth anything. I just don't know how to enter a system and become useful and helpful when I've been in such isolation and almost kept at a distance for reasons that I don't know. But now somehow I feel like I've been punished for in a really painful way that's not easily spoken of. And I don't know how to gain access to that level of help either, because it's not, I said to my son tonight, their psychology is broken, my son's. Not that my son is broken, it's just, I'm like, I was like, Nicholas, I was like, Anthony, I was like, I feel like what you just said is so sad to me because he was saying, he's like, they're just so mean. Like, I'm like, there's no meaningful relationships. Like, he will not carry these friends all the way through till high school. He just won't. I didn't either. They're just transient relationships, it feels like. I was like, it's like the diocese of the day. Instead of seize the day, carpe diem, it's like diocese, like the disease of the day. It's like, let's get through it, muddle on to tomorrow. It's like, what did this script write? It's, I mean, what they speak is so trivial and meaningless, and their interactions are so pathetic. It's sad. They have no, and today they were talking about that they have no life. I was like, what you really have is no brotherhood, to be honest. I mean, Nuge has 3 brothers, which he was very tight with, but they got taken away. And then this, whatever, non-essential group with no real purpose or meaning. I'm like, there's no psychology that works for long term within what he's exposed to on a daily basis. The sociology is built off of the psychology. It's not working. It wasn't working when I was little. It's definitely not working now. They don't hate one another. They don't speak disrespectfully in the sense there's no derogatory terms spoken to one another. They don't have, nobody's giving them the building blocks. Besides the fact I have no carry forward, so I would have no reference point. Even if I heard something, I most likely would not be able to decipher it as, because I have no history of it. I mean, there's just words that he uses, and they're very minimal, trivial words, but there's no hatred of anything different than himself. I was the same way. I mean, I was curious, but not like just more in like an observant, quiet, and then it was transactional. So right now I feel bad for my son. It's such a waste of time. It's like his youth is totally wasted on psychology that will not carry him or benefit him anywhere in his life. The words he speaks, the actions he goes through don't really add up to much. And then the sociology, the way that he's working with a small group of mixed sociological choices. Again, it's so menial and trivial. There's no substance to it. I mean, there's really no point other than the fact that, yeah, I was there, I was nice. What more do you want? I mean, it just seems like a lot of time and effort wasted just so somebody can say they checked a box that somewhere in the world there's a whatever and they fulfilled somebody else's census, I suppose. But it's at the detriment of my son, which is terrible because he doesn't have any long existing, my other sons too. They have each other, thank God, but they don't have long history and brotherhood type relationships from elementary all the way up. There's been so much turnover in all their school districts, and there's been no real bond formed because there's been no community or society to really cling to in New York, and even in Suffolk County. I mean, I've tried. So that's the update from Century 20, Decade 2 plus 1 year from a 43-year-old woman who can't seem to find her inroads to get to something that is legitimate pay, that won't get me in trouble, and that will help me become self-sufficient, where I can contribute in some manner to something larger than myself, but I don't have any words or anything built to know what direction to even take with that, because it feels like it's such a category. Star 1978, Star 8378, Nicole Cateruza. It's Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Universe, Galaxy is broken, and it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.